I would just like to firstly thank you all for coming. This is our 5th Share and Connect. Each one of them has been really special, with beautiful, generous, informed, intelligent, creative guests sharing their stories with us about different elements of their practice. And today we have John Botica. John, what a pleasure. I'm so happy that you are here with us. I have only met you once, and that was briefly at the symposium in Canberra in 2019, which seems like a lifetime ago now. But firstly, the key question I have for you is, why mosaic? What does mosaic offer that other art forms don't? So John, why mosaic?
Well, it's purely what happened to me. It's just accidental. So I really cannot talk about it because I was not preparing myself for this journey. It just happened. And of course, there are some things that are related to it, to my journey, present one. And it's always that I was infatuated by beautiful objects, be it furniture, be it clothes, be it surroundings. And, you know, I try to interpret those facets from my art right now. Yeah. So it's basically purely accidental, no preparation whatsoever.
And you fell into this practice. You were experimenting and you were introduced to it. And then you know, it's something that really gelled with you. There must have been this moment where the connection with pebbles, it just blossomed. And, you know, my God, you're so prolific. I've got a selection of your work to show. I think I've got 45 slides, and that's only a fraction of your work. And your work is huge. We are not talking about a small mosaic. We are talking about several meters and so many pieces and so much material and physical labor. And you must be absolutely passionate about this to be able to continue in this way.
Yeah, it's a very important issue right now because it's becoming a business, you know what I mean? So, you know, how do you remain focused? How do you remain passionate about what you're doing, you know? So those are very challenging times in a way. But whenever I go back to my studio, this is where I find my freedom, where I find my happiness. So this is basically it, you know, this is my life. And I could not imagine doing anything else right now, or will never imagine anything alternative to this. It's impossibility.
And how do you find your pebbles? What makes the right pebble for you?
Well, I collect them all the time. I select them, collect them, look for special sizes, for special thickness. So in itself, it's a very intricate work, you know what I mean, selecting pebbles, and it takes a long time. So yeah, it is becoming a routine all of a sudden. And like I say, you have to stay focused, because the project that I'm working right now, for the background, I have to select pebbles from a pile, and it's really a lot of hard work. Really, your back is hurting, everything is hurting, and you just say, I had enough, but then you continue, you know.
That's right. And you are physically hand selecting. It's not like a truck just turns up with, here's a box, here's your material, like, you know. So for those of you who are working with other materials, you order a material and it comes in a box, and you unwrap it, and there you go. Whereas it's very different for you, because no one pebble is the same, and you're looking for a particular formation, you're looking for a particular feeling, and it must be so interesting to the experience of selection, right? Is almost, I imagine, will become intuition. Which pebble in this huge pile of pebbles is the right pebble? How do you know that one's the right one? You instinctively become tuned in to a exchange with that material to instinctively collect and select the ones you need. And that must be not only physically laborious, which is what you're talking about, the physical labor involved, but again, you say focus. You have to be focused. It's not just, you can't just select anything. It's a special thing. Each one is especially chosen for the project. Is that right, John?
Yeah, well, but I have to add right now that I'm not as selective as I used to be. You know what I mean? In the beginning, it was kind of immaculate, you know, to pick up this one and this one. But it's not the case anymore, because now I got more routine, you know what I mean? So I can practically use any pebble, so to say. Well, that's an exaggeration in itself, but you know, so because I trust my expertise, if I can call it right now, and that's basically it. Yeah.
And yeah, well, I think you've developed that expertise. It's not something that you just have, it's something that you've worked towards, that you've trained and honed. Not only that, if we look at these images at the moment, where we're looking at here with the production methods, you're working with an ancient technique here, and these are big pieces. So we're looking at the dragon's head here in progress. How big is this section, for example?
I would imagine it is about 90 kgs when it's dismantled. And, you know, like right now, I'm having this all the time, big pieces, because you 2 or 3 big guys will lift it, it will install it. And I mean, I cannot afford to be looking for smaller pieces while designing, because I think the work will suffer, you know what I mean, if you start subdividing too much. So that's what I'm trying to avoid presently.
So these sections are like pieces of a puzzle, that each section is approximately, well, it would vary, but this one you estimate as a 90-kilogram section.
Well, let's say this is probably 1.2 meters long and 78, whatever, 70 wide, if you can call it, you know.
Yeah.
And then it fits, like if you look at all other works, they fit like a jigsaw puzzle.
Yes.
And they've got about 7-millimeter joints in between the segments, which you later on grout, you know. So.
And the technique involved here, you know, there's the conception of the work, you know, we'll talk in a minute maybe about the motifs you're using and the imagery that you're using, but it's, you know, I won't say it's similar to sculpture, but there are some similarities. The idea might take, you know, a couple of days, but the actual making, it must take, how long does it take you to make one of these a complete work, for example?
Well, I mean, we're talking now. I'm doing the border for dragon mosaic right now, which will take me probably another 6 weeks. So we are talking 2-3 meter mosaics diameter over a year. And there is another one coming, and it's a lot of work. It's becoming really physical. So I'm not losing my passion whatsoever, but I'm not killing myself, you know what I mean? So that is a huge difference from now and let's say 5 years ago, you know?
Yes.
So.
And you know, in terms of the practicalities of this, you're doing it all yourself. So you've got your client liaising, you've got your design development, you've got your palette selection, which is, I guess, similar across your work. You've got the material selection. Then you've got the form work here. If you look at the form work that you've got around these sections, developing the sections, getting the sizing right, you know, bending the casing or the wood to create the form work, laying it in the stone, then you've got to cast the piece. So do you have a team, John, to help you?
No, I'm just on my own, and it'll remain that way. Because, I mean, if you start employing people, delegating your work, I mean, the quality will eventually suffer, you know. So you want to make sure what you want to deliver, you know, and I made this decision a long time ago, you know. So that's it, you know. So look at this image that we are talking about. This is the culmination, if I can call it, my journey. Presently, this lady, its metal frame is being made for her, and she will be erected upright. So that was my biggest dream of my lifetime, you know, to be placing pebble mosaics upright, vertically into the ground. So this is probably going to happen at the end of this month, I would assume, you know.
And what's the height of this piece, John?
2.6 meters high and 1.6 wide.
Wow. And so you're working within that tradition of the pavement mosaics, and we see those pebble mosaics even from Pella and the ancient mosaics, but you've developed this in your own way and into your own sort of visual language. I think that it's your pieces are completely iconic, and there's no, when we look at your work, we know whose work this is. We're not going, oh, I wonder if it was some, I wonder, it's like this or it's like that.
About this one, because that's a dragon. That would say, my God, what is he doing right now? Dragons. But I mean, if you look, sorry for interrupting,
no.
If you look previous works, they're obviously from New Zealand. I mean, there is no theme in anywhere in the world like that, right? I'm not trying to say that I'm special. I'm trying to say the themes are special.
Yeah. Well, that's right. You've developed this series, drawing imagery from the New Zealand wildlife, flora, and fauna, and absolutely gorgeous. So particularly the birds. I really feel the birds just speak to me in a way that the others, I mean, even more. I mean, the symbols and the sort of emblem I hear is very striking and very strong. But when I see these birds, they have such lightness, and it's like you're creating lightness, but it's such a heavy material. How does that happen? Even this one, you've got the monarch butterfly, even though the material is heavy. It's cast in concrete, it's in the ground, but it still has andamento, it still has a lightness to it. And I think that's something that's really, really difficult to achieve. And I think there's a simplicity as well in your work, that because you don't have a huge palette of color available to you, you're working with the color of the natural stone. You need to really distill the motive and the image you're working with down to be really successful in such a limited palette. And the way you've used, particularly this piece, this is my favorite.
Yeah.
When we look at the back of the bird, and you can see the directional laying in the tail, the directional laying in the wings, and then the directional laying in the body, the way it twists and comes around the form. It's all one color, it's all one material, yet through the laying on the andamento of the pebbles, you've been able to capture the rhythm and the movement of the bird.
Yes, that is very important. If I can add, with a primitive language, you can kill a mosaic if you choose the wrong andamento, you know, how you move stones. And when you do it right, the impact is amazing. And especially because pebble mosaic always looks different during the day, the way the sun rays fall onto it and so on. So it is, I get really excited about it. I know I'm biased. I know that I'm passionate, and I want to address another issue what Heather and Vicky were talking about, and I always wanted to interrupt and say, do you know this Greek saying anima mundi? Anima mundi, where does the psyche stop? Does the psyche stop in stones? No, it doesn't. It's the soul in stones. Of course, there is soul in stones. Everything is interconnected, and you can feel this in stones. Okay, we can say now he's gone off his wall, he's starting to imagine things, but that's not the case.
Yeah.
They get really warm, you know.
Why have you stuck with this material? Why? What's it? I mean, I know you developed this, your business. It's a full-time job for you, but you've never been seduced by another material?
No, no. I mean, this is getting exciting, more exciting by the day. Uh, uh, Especially when I work, you ask me, do you look for special pebbles? No, I don't. But as I start working, Caitlin, I'm looking for a spot, and you would not believe I find that stone, and I haven't been looking for that pebble at all. Like I'm saying, my God, I mean, I'm not religious, but I said, are you helping me? You know what I mean? It's getting outright crazy sometimes. And I want to almost take photos of this so that people can witness it. But it's just happening all the time. You know, it's not accidental anymore. So obviously, I guess it's preparation, I would say. Yeah.
It's again, the distillation of practice. It's your distilling in the subject matter, you're distilling in the palette, you're distilling in the material, you're distilling in the process, you're refining. So you're so focused. And I think that is one of the key elements of today with the speakers that we are talking about, is that there's so much to know in mosaic and so many ways to express, but when you find your particular way, your particular material, your particular voice, and work hard at distilling that, then beautiful things are happening. And your work is just beautiful, John, and I would love to have one day. It's just it's something I would love, and it must feel good to walk on in bare feet, does it?
It is because they're all even, you know what I mean, and very tactile at the same time. So it's a beautiful feeling, and I think they're using more pebbles for other purposes, you know what I mean, spiritual, whatever, you know. So yeah, it is a beautiful feeling to walk on those.
I imagine it would be. So I want to thank you, John, for sharing today and for joining us in this Share and Connect. And
can I just say something?
Yeah.
And everybody has been talking about it, but here it is. Art, for those who love with their eyes, they say goodbye. And for those who love with their heart and soul, there is no separation. So this is basically what we are talking about, the anima mundi. Heather and Vicky were talking about the power of stones. So here you are. So there is no separation when you offer your heart and soul for what you do, in what you're, so that's it about it. Yeah.
Thank you, John. That's beautiful. You're absolutely spot on. And I think so I had an experience with Marco De Luca once, and he said to me, when mosaic is about the head, you're coming from your head, it is hard. But when the head and the heart and the hands join, it is easy and it flows. So I think that also connects with what you're saying. And I'd like to ask you one final question. What is next for you, John?
Well, I'd like to see more upright installations, vertical installations, and that is, but basically pretty much what I'm doing now. There is a lot of work in New Zealand. I wanted to go international. There is a mosaic going to Tucson, Arizona next week, but I mean, I'll be still doing this stuff. More I cannot tell you.
Yeah.
Life is unpredictable, you know. You can never predict anything, you know.
We do have another question from Carol Helmers for John. And Carol is saying, I assume that John grades and stores his pebbles in size and color. Can he elaborate on storage of his materials?
I don't store much at all, actually. So because I just select for every project, I do happen to have some stones that remain from previous projects, but I mean, most of the time, every single segment, selecting stones, bringing home a handful of stones. So there is no storage of them whatsoever. I mean, just a little bit, that's it. Yeah.
Thank you, John.
Thank you. So you make probably one of the largest pieces and you have the least material stored. That's quite amazing.
No. No, what I'm basically saying, if I like, it's working on a dragon, you see the green background. I'm not storing stones. I'm working from a segment to segment, and for each segment selecting stones. So bringing home a bag, and that's it, you know?
Yeah.
That's it. Of course, there are some stones there, but not a huge amount.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Well, we can learn from you. I certainly can when it comes to storage.
When John, you've said a couple times now that you really want to see your work on a vertical plane. And I wondered what is it about that you know, you said that's your dream. So why is that important to you? Or what is it about having pebbles on the vertical plane that's important to you?
Oh, because you basically you see the whole mosaic in front of your eyes, whereas when you're looking into the on the ground, you're restricted. Your view is restricted. You know, if you have a mosaic of 3 meters in diameter, and you have it upright, you see the whole thing. You know, much better than when you see it in the ground. That's the main reason. And also, it is far more impressive, I think, if you just have it vertical than rather horizontal.
Thank you.